Hello everyone, welcome to Let's Talk Motorsport. We're your hosts Daniel and Alex.
Oh,
Wake up!
oh,
The Grand Prix finished, mate.
is
Gotta
it?
do the pod.
Oh, did I miss
Yes.
anything?
Not really.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
Did you have a good nap?
I did. I was watching the race. I saw lap 1, and then all of a sudden it's now Wednesday. That's staying in.
Hello everyone, welcome properly to Let's Talk Motorsport. We're your hosts Daniel and Alex. And of course, if you didn't see the intro, this is the Japanese Grand Prix and a review. And well, what a Grand Prix it was. We're still trying to work out what it was because it definitely wasn't a Grand Prix.
We've been recording for a minute. Is that enough? I think we've finished.
Yeah, I think. Oh, I think the fact that you're in a coma's pretty much summed it up.
I wasn't in a coma. I just fell asleep.
Same thing. It's Wednesday, mate.
Good old wake up Jeff from the Wiggles. How good?
From Wiggles, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, Japanese Grand Prix done and dusted for another year. Extremely lackluster, I must say. So there probably won't be much talking about the race. But before we do talk about our Formula One review, if you're new to us, hello, welcome. We're a motorsport podcast and news platform. So if you're interested in Formula One, supercars, MotoGP, Formula RXA, any motorsport related thing, be sure to hit the subscribe button and like and hit the notification bell to get notified every time we upload a video. Alex,
as it turns out, we do acting skits as well. Not very well.
I guess apparently don't give us any Oscars anytime soon.
No.
But Alex, obviously, it wasn't a great Grand Prix, but in terms of out of 10, what would you give it?
Well, speaking of Oscars, Oscar, who had his birthday on Sunday, probably actually would have enjoyed the rest of the day besides the race, I'll be honest. If I had to rate the Grand Prix out of 10, I probably, honestly, it's probably going to be a bit rude, but I'll probably give it a 0.
Yeah?
Well, in terms of action... Actually, let me change something. I'm going to vote based on the number of drivers who swap positions in the top 10. 2. Which was Isaac Hadjar and Lewis Hamilton. They were the only 2 top 10 moves in the whole Grand Prix.
That's crazy. Yeah, I was going to give it a 2 out of 10 as well.
There you go.
Because nothing happened. The only thing that happened was cars were going around. Qualifying was amazing.
Qualifying was the highlight of the whole weekend.
Yeah, and grass fires.
Yes.
Literally grass fires.
I actually think the marshals did more work this week than drivers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And none of that was in the race.
No. Actually,
Marshals had a field
I'm very
day.
surprised that there was no fires during the race, considering they happen every 3 minutes in quali and practice.
Oh, yeah.
So I was actually thinking the race would be unique because there'd be like 10 red flags.
Well, I guess because of the damp conditions in the morning would have stopped it from potentially happening. But even then, we shouldn't have to rely on grass fires for it to get exciting.
Well, we're running out of
shame this weekend.
We're running out of ideas.
Yeah.
Speaking of ideas, later in the show we will chat about ideas to make F1 more interesting, because that was not good at all. It was quite embarrassing, if I'm honest.
No, definitely not. But one really cool thing about this weekend was, in fact, qualifying. We saw an incredible lap from Max Verstappen, who I think is his fourth. I think it's his fourth Japanese Grand Prix win.
Yes.
In a row.
Yep.
And pole position as well, I think, which hasn't been done before in Suzuka. So what an amazing lap from him. Only 20 milliseconds, like 20 hundredths away to Lando Norris, who we all thought was going to get it. What was your thoughts?
Well, just like you said, like the lap that Max did was a real testament to why he's a 4-time champion. personally, I think that's probably the best thing he's ever done since the 2021 season, at least. He's not in a car that could get pole positions easily, let's say. So he would have wrung the neck off that thing. And it was actually thanks to a very dominant last sector. Because he wasn't... Like, it was close, but he wasn't that close to be thinking, oh yeah, it'll... I must say that he did ruin my tips.
Yeah, he destroyed all of us.
No, but he completely destroyed mine because literally I had top 3 lined up ready to go. And then all of a sudden he came in. And because I had Leclerc as 3rd, and he qualified 4th. Yeah.
You had no luck this weekend with your points.
Oh, we have to... You may as well just get it out now. So if you don't
Let's talk about that now.
We have a little game where we predict every top 3 for F1 and MotoGP, and now this week's Supercars. And basically, if you get the first place finisher correct, you get 3 points. Second, you get 2. Third, 1. I got 0 points. Zilch. Not even 1 this weekend. I'll bring up the graphic now for you to show the points table, but I'm pretty sure it's Ivan 22, Daniel's on 18, and I'm on 14, and I didn't get a single point. Ivan got both Norris's correct because he got him 2nd place, and you got, I think, Norris as well correct for the race.
Yeah, I got... Yeah.
It was bad. Yeah, exactly. And this is why I don't bet. This is why I'm not a betting man, because I can't even get a prediction correct, let alone actually put money on it to actually think I'm going to earn money. It's just not possible.
Yeah, thank God we're not putting money on this one.
Oh.
But yeah, no, but this is the first time in a while we saw Max's domination. We haven't seen him dominate for a while.
No.
Even with a crap car, like this car, like he struggled all weekend with the setup. Even Yuki Tsunoda, who we'll get into today, struggled as well. Obviously the car's nowhere near what 2023 was, but once he, like we all knew, right? As soon as he got off to a good start in the race, he was definitely gone. Because obviously we already know Japanese, like the Suzuka, you can't really overtake there, especially with these cars. And Max knew that. So if he got a good start, and then he was able to just take lead of the race.
Well, unfortunately, we didn't have this podcast back in the 2020/2019 days. But if we did, I always mention to friends and family that if Lewis Hamilton didn't qualify pole and lead lap 1, he wouldn't win races. So what McLaren showed this week, especially, like Red Bull don't have the car to race other cars. We know that. And apparently they have a car that can qualify not too bad. But they've still got the problem of if they start well, then they can't be caught. But I will say he didn't ever drive away from the McLarens, which just which proves my point even more, right? But McLaren, on the other hand, proved that if they don't start pole or at least second, from each other, if one of their cars is on pole position, basically, then they're in a bit of a struggle town as well.
Yeah, and they shot themselves in the foot this weekend, didn't they? With what was going on.
Did they hire someone from Ferrari this year to deal with strategies?
Someone on loan.
They must have borrowed someone. Because apparently, and I didn't realise this, but Toto Wolff hasn't been to the Suzuka race for many years. A lot of the crew don't go to the Japanese Grand Prix. I don't know if that's a logistical thing. In my mind, it doesn't make any sense because they were in China 2 weeks ago. Yeah. And then a week before that, they were in Melbourne. So
they got to go to Bahrain this weekend. So
that's what I mean. They're all in the same half, I guess, of the world. But no, he wasn't there. And apparently, I was listening in practice 2. He wasn't even awake for practice 1. He wasn't even at the workshop. He was still asleep. He only arrived about an hour after practice 1 at the. Yeah,
but so was everyone else in the race, though.
Yeah, as you raced, he didn't even need to turn up.
Exactly.
But I think it just proves the point of these cars. Unfortunately, are built for qualifying, and unfortunately for fans, that makes it rubbish as a race because they're just expected to drive away, and it's not really racing if they're just driving away.
Yeah, and it makes me. I know we're going to talk about this after, and we will, but makes me worried for Monaco. Even though they've got a rule where there's 2 tyre stops minimum. You need two pit stops, regardless of weather. We're guaranteed there's no battling on track. It's all completely pit stops.
Well, unfortunately, the days... I don't know how to really explain this, but the classic tracks that we have now, like Suzuka...
Historic, yeah.
Are dying. For example, Zandvoort, they ditched many years ago. And let's be honest, they only brought it back because of Max Verstappen and the publicity.
And then they're going to ditch it again anyway.
Exactly. I unfortunately think that is going to be the case with at least 4 other tracks, 5 maybe. I haven't got a full list of them in front of me, but tracks, unfortunately, like Suzuka, unfortunately like Imola, like Monaco. Spain's already getting replaced, so we know that's going. I'd even put Hungary in that list. And after that, it's not too bad. I'd say, Qatar is another terrible track.
Yeah, but that's a motorcycle track anyway to begin with.
Yeah, but those tracks there, unfortunately, F1 has changed and evolved so much that now the cars that they have racing there aren't fitted for these tracks. And what I mean by that, if you are new to Formula One and you don't know what that means, I'm gonna say that the cars are too fast for these tracks. Because the problem with Suzuka is it only has one DRS zone, which, as Jack Doohan found out, is quite dangerous in itself. Can be quite dangerous. Apparently, they actually, when DRS was introduced in 2011, I think it was, they actually had DRS running on the back straight into 130R, and then they'd have to close it beforehand. But it was... Some drivers were so brave that they were actually testing it with the DRS open, and it just got too dangerous. And unfortunately,
back then,
that's happening at Turn 1 now.
Yeah, well, back then, I'm pretty sure there was no DRS zones. It was go your hardest and qualify.
True.
Like, press it wherever you want. So, yeah, and we might as well, let's talk about Jack Doohan for a sec while you're in this topic, because we'll dive deeper into what we could maybe look at improving for Formula One for the future to keep these tracks alive, because I really think it's really important that we have these tracks like Suzuka alive still. Maybe they could revisit Fuji, I don't know, Tegi, whatever you call that one.
That is exactly what I was going to bring up.
Fuji,
look, it still has the problem that Suzuka has, which is the problem that F1 has of medium speed corners. And medium speed corners are the ones where you can't dive down the inside and pass somebody, and they're too fast to be side by side with somebody, and it just doesn't work. And you can't go flat out. There's no way to pass, which unfortunately is pretty much the entire Suzuka track. And that's what I was saying before about the cars are too fast. They're too aerodynamic going through these corners. Because let's, for example, I know this is iRacing, but the hairpin at Suzuka, after underneath the bridge, after that, is a golden opportunity for passing in other cars, not in Formula One cars. Because the problem is they've taken the second. There is a name for these corners before the bridge. They're taking that right-hander so fast that they've just got so much momentum that the other cars behind can't catch up, and then therefore can't dive into the slowest corner on the track. Which is sad.
Yeah.
Right? Because the slowest corner on the track in Melbourne is the second to last corner. But if I go to the second corner, which has a DRS zone in front of it and is the second slowest corner, that is a golden opportunity for passing. And thankfully...
which we saw.
Yeah, and thankfully that F1 was able to modify the track of Melbourne to have, which is also really sad, to have 4 DRS zones on that track, which is completely insane. But unfortunately, DRS is the only way F1 cars pass because of these medium speed corners.
Yeah.
That was the point I was trying to make on this rant of mine. And unfortunately, Suzuka is just full of medium speed corners, and it's just impossible. And so is Imola, so is Spain. Monaco is just way too narrow. And so is the Netherlands, that's where it's going. So is Hungary. They're all medium speed. They all suck. And no one can pass in these corners.
Yeah, well, this could change next year, though, because DRS doesn't exist. after this year with the X zone and Z zone. And the overtake pass as well. Basically, it's active aero the whole entire time. There's no DRS zones.
Fingers crossed, because races. Yeah. We don't want to lose Suzuka. The drivers were all so keen for this weekend, right? Like Carlos Sainz rated Suzuka as his favorite track, and so did a whole bunch.
It's one of my favorites. It's definitely one of my favorites.
But it sucks as a race, and we can't lose it. It's Suzuka. There's been so many memories there, as we discovered last week with Ivan ranking them, that it can't go. But unless something changes, it can't stay.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm hoping, because the cars are a little bit smaller next year as well. I reckon that's another problem. They're just too damn big for these tracks now. Because if you put them side by side with the 90s cars, which is what they were designed for, because Suzuka came out in 87. The cars were extremely different, and the track has not really changed. Actually, the track pretty much has not changed since then.
I'd go from the better part of like the early 2000s, like with that Alonso pass with Schumacher. Those cars, they were pretty similar to what the car's going to be next year. Am I correct?
That is true. Yeah. I believe in terms of size, I think a little bit small. I think, but I can't remember from the top of my head. But they are aiming to go back to that sort of era.
I'll find out.
You'll find out. But I reckon, the size of the cars is a big issue as well. DRS is always an issue since 2011. So I'm excited to see what we could potentially have next year. It'll be rather interesting indeed. But I want to talk about Jack Doohan though as well, with while we're in the DRS topic.
Okay, sorry. They're nowhere near as small as the 2005 cars, but they are much smaller than the current one.
This year's. Well, that's the main thing. That's better than nothing. But it is going to be interesting to see how the aero goes and all that fun stuff. But Jack Doohan, he, like you said before, he found out the hard way that you can't have the DRS on when you're going around that corner, because essentially it's like you lose your wing. That's what everyone says at high speeds. And remember, you know what it reminds me of, when 2018 Sydney Motorsport Park, when Todd Hazelwood lost his rear wing.
Yeah.
Heading into turn one, it just spun. Yeah, that's exactly what we saw here, except it's another additional 100k an hour.
I've never seen a car do a 360 like that, ever.
Which one? Todd?
No, Doohan's.
Oh, Doohan's. Yeah,
it was crazy. Immediate.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally like a tornado came through and just spun it.
Yeah.
It was wild.
You know the meme of Verstappen kicking the car?
Yeah.
That's what that was.
Yeah.
But it turns out, by the way, too, that was about the same amount of G's as Max Verstappen's Silverstone crash.
Really?
It was which is bad. Remarkable, given how Verstappen actually had some issues afterwards, like health issues. And Doohan had nothing. He was injured.
It knocked him down,
but he had no head injuries though. That's the main thing. And you could see, like, he did he did rather well this weekend for the race. Obviously it's 15th or something like that. But he was told to let Pierre go in front of him, which he did. But he finished 15th, not too bad, still ahead of Lawson's. No, actually, still ahead of Lawson. And it was kind of nice to see his race engineer and Esteban Ocon help him out of the car, which I saw on social media. That was really nice. But yeah, huge credit to Doohan for that, for bouncing back like that.
Yeah, well, we learned his lesson in the ultimate worst way possible. And yeah, I don't think he'll be making that mistake again. But question remains, and I'll be bringing it up just to cause a bit of fire, the fuel to the fire. But is he in danger? We've seen this week, pretty much Monday, that Franco Colapinto has done a test day at Monza in their car. Is that a sign of things to come? I don't know. Does he have another chance in Bahrain? I don't know.
The thing is, I sort of sympathise with him with that crash that he had. Am I keeping you on, mate?
Oh, I've got the Grand Prix on. It's just making me tired.
Well, you've been asleep for the last 3 days. So.
No, it's been a day. I had to drive a race car on the road.
Yeah, he did. That was fun.
Hmm.
But you don't get to do that often.
No.
But anyway, the problem with Jack, right? He missed it. Even though he's a rookie, right? Remember, he's a rookie. He had to sit out of practice one to
That was stupid.
Their reserve driver, or their test driver.
That was stupid.
They should have put Gasly out for that session.
Yeah.
Someone who's been there before.
Mm-hmm.
Jack's never been to Suzuka, as far as I'm aware.
No.
So in the simulators, he had the DRS open and nothing happened. So that's all the information he had. That's all the knowledge and experience he had. So he should have eased into it, yeah. Unless he tried to press the button and it didn't work, I don't know. I don't know. But you shouldn't have knocked the rookie out.
No, it doesn't make sense.
Before anything.
It seriously doesn't make any sense. But, it's... I just hope that, based on that information you just said, that they don't still blame him, because it's still not his fault.
Oh, Flavio would definitely will. We all know that.
Yeah.
Because he's a prick. Damn! But that's true. It's the facts.
Yeah, it's true.
But I want to talk about what could have been like the racing that we saw this weekend. Before I talk about the next driver.
What racing?
Exactly. But the only action we saw was in pit lane with Verstappen and Norris. Norris now has a lawn mowing company.
It's sad that the most entertaining part of the race happened at the exit of pit lane.
But I want to ask you a question, because I was listening to Scotty Pye and Elliot Barber talking about this. They said, realistically, McLaren should have let Lando do the overcut. Like they saw Max pit, they should have came in afterwards, and maybe they would have had a chance. Instead of going out at the same time. What do you reckon?
Well, considering the car is meant to be a lot faster in clean air, they do raise a very good point. Whether or not that clean air would have been fast enough to be faster than fresh tyres, I don't know. But I think Lewis kind of provided some insight on that, because he started the race on hard tyres versus the rest on mediums. So, yeah, I really don't know. But I think McLaren are really good at bottling things, strategy-wise. You'd mentioned that. What did Oscar do? Did he before or after?
I believe he did.
So I was at the football.
After.
I didn't see it.
I believe after. I think he did after, from memory. I'll see if I can find out.
Well, pit stop summary.
You keep doing that.
Pit stop summary. I got it.
I'm looking at it too.
Where is it?
Go.
He pitted lap 4.
20.
Before.
Yeah, so okay, lap before. There you go.
What they should have done, but this would have raised a mountain out of a molehill, was pitted Piastri and then just see what happens. With Norris.
Yeah. Gamble with Oscar.
Yeah. Well, let's be honest. No one else was going to catch him.
Yeah, fair enough.
What was the race gap result?
Pretty decent amount. He was 16 seconds behind.
Yeah. He had a 14-second gap between Piastri and Leclerc.
Yeah, so there you go. But anyway, but the pit stop wasn't the only drama. The other drama was the fact that Piastri was faster than Norris, and they didn't let him go. Because realistically, right, even because I understand that Norris is leading the championship. He still is, just by 1 point now. But if they let Oscar go, he could have caught up to Max and distracted Max and kept Max busy until Norris was able to come by and take both of them. Or even Oscar just ends up winning. But I don't think they should... I felt like they favoured Norris a little bit. Like they always seem to do sometimes. And I think it's too early to do things like that, especially when you've got two A-game #1 drivers in the contention for the title. I think it's a bit early for that.
I agree, but Ivan mentioned it in the short he made the other day that McLaren... Look, they have to prove that this works with both drivers, or suck it up and pick one.
Yeah.
Right? They don't want to. I wouldn't want to if I was Zach Brown. However, you're shooting yourselves in the foot by losing championship points for both drivers in the end. They're probably going to win the constructors this year because Red Bull don't have a second driver. Mercedes are just consistently okay, and Ferrari keep getting disqualified. So, look, I don't think they're going to lose any points there. But pick a driver, just pick one, please, because it's getting ridiculous. It obviously hasn't worked. In Hungary, they embarrassed themselves. This week, they embarrassed themselves. Technically, even in Australia, they embarrassed themselves. Even though one of their cars did win, but their strategy was a bit of a mess.
Yeah,
they just keep getting in their own way. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, well, that's because they actually have the best car and the best team, like driver combination on the grid.
They need to ask Mercedes how they dominated the season with 2 cars, and they finished 1-2.
Yeah. Well, we saw how they handled 2016. It was interesting. 2016 as a whole was interesting.
Yeah.
So but I guess we'll have to see what happens this weekend in Bahrain, which we'll talk about with Ivan hopefully tomorrow. But let's talk about Liam Lawson and Yuki Tsunoda. Obviously, Yuki's first time in the Red Bull wasn't as great as we all hoped. He qualified 15th, finished 12th place. Still ahead of Liam. Still better than what Liam did in that car for the first 2 rounds, which is interesting. But I also want to talk about Lawson as well in that RB. But how do you reckon Yuki went?
Well,
in the Red Bull.
Up until qualifying, apparently he just made a little mistake during that lap. However, I don't think he did as bad as people say, or pretty much saying he is. Because let's be honest, no one ever took in that race, and he gained 3 positions. So,
which is the most everyone has done, probably.
Exactly, that's my point. So, obviously he was better than Liam. He beat him in the race. He did get out-qualified by him, but it wasn't as much as a disaster as it was. And don't forget, I don't know what Max was doing in practice, but in practice, he was only a 10th slower than him.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, he was up there in practice.
Yeah, he was, 100%. And then, I don't know what happened in qualifying, but I think this week, pressure is off for him now. He's done his debut. He's not surrounded by his home fans. There'll be hardly any fans, let's be honest, in Bahrain. Let's see what he can do. I reckon this week's a good test for him.
And with Liam, what do you reckon he went back in the car that he's used to? He could have done better, in my opinion, but...
Well, actually, you say that he's used to it, but Crofty made a good point during the broadcast that, yes, he's gone back to his old team. However, that car is not the same. It's better.
Yeah, it's true.
It's better.
Different. It's a different...
Apparently
it's better, different.
Yeah, apparently they've even got a different steering wheel. Apparently they've got... Well, he's got a new engineer. The engineer that was there last year is not with the team anymore. I'm pretty sure he's actually with Sauber, that guy, because the voice rings a bell from the Bortoleto. I don't know if he's with Bortoleto or Hulkenberg, but I think he's with Sauber, that engineer.
Yep.
So nothing's really the same. He doesn't have the same teammate. So nothing is really the same besides the name of the team, let's be honest. Look, overall, unfortunately, I think people are going to really not care what he does. Not that I'm saying I don't care, but, the pressure's off for him now that I don't really mind.
I don't think he cares.
As much, yeah. So,
but I think, in terms of results, though, I think we need to really compare him to Isaac. So Isaac had a phenomenal weekend this year. 7th in qualifying. And 8th in the race.
Yeah. Dude, he was on it.
Really remarkable. He might be up for a Red Bull seat.
Well, at this point, yeah. Every 2 races.
Yeah, but compared to him, and compared to Tsunoda's previous results this year, he's always been close to Hadjar, but Liam was way off. Now, keep in mind, Racing Bulls also pitted Lawson towards the end for softs as well.
Well, unfortunately, RB are very good at bottling strategies, just as good as McLaren are or Ferrari are.
Yeah, we saw that with Ricardo last year.
Yeah, but not only that, we even saw China. They had the opportunity to have double points. They both qualified, I think, 7th, 8th, or 7th, 9th, and they just destroyed their own race. They finished 16th, 15th, whatever it was. Sonoda didn't even finish with a full front wing. So, I think the pace is there for Hadjar. I think the speed's there, the race pace is there. It's just all a matter of the team putting him in the position to be there at the end. And, this week that was really easy because there was nothing to the race. Speaking of which, I want to ask you a question. I'm pretty sure they've announced this for Monaco, mandatory pit stops.
Yes. Yeah.
I think the one-stop strategy should be dead.
Just all together, you reckon every place should have mandatory 2-stop?
Yeah.
I like it. It does spice things up a bit.
It spices things up too, but also, I don't know how to say this, but because it's a team sport, get the team involved.
Yeah.
A bit more.
Yeah.
Because we see it. The races that produce multiple pit stops produce the most entertainment. Obviously, usually that comes with wet weather, but in the pit lane, they have unsafe releases. They have to hold for cars to come in and out. It really throws up a spanner in the works. So I'm maybe not for every single track. Actually, you know what? No, screw it. Yeah, every single track. Keep the consistency. just every race. Unless it's wet. If it's wet, then it's not necessary. If it's wet, then you have a rule. Whatever happens. But for a complete dry race, 2.
Well, because Monaco, even in the wet, they have a mandatory 2-stop. So that could be interesting. But no, I agree. We need a bit more action. Maybe even if it's in strategy, for example, we need some more results. Because just going in a straight line is not fun.
I don't want Tsuka to die. I don't want it to disappear. No. But dear God, that was terrible.
That was terrible. Yeah, it was. I didn't miss anything. I don't even know what I was doing on Sunday.
I was at the football, and I must say, I actually had it on, ready to watch the whole thing, or at least listen to it. And after 10 laps, I turned it off.
Speaking of listening to it, this is a good transition. Jacques Villeneuve needs to go. I hate it.
Hopefully, he was only a fill-in for this week.
Oh my God. He was so painful to listen to. I just wanted to put bleach in my ears and let it come out my nose. Like, it was so bad. I hated it. And I miss Brundle. I miss him so much. And I'm not the only one who thinks this too. A lot of people in the community do think.
Oh yeah, I've seen a lot of comments.
A couple people actually like him for his harsh comments. But no, I don't like him as a person. Like, the thing that bugged me the most was he kept talking as the radio sound happened, and then the radio started playing, and I'm like, shut up.
Oh, that's bad.
So he kept on talking just as they start talking, and then there was one point when someone was complaining in the radio, or someone talk about strategy, and he had to say something. Oh, yeah. It was a brief second. It's like he responded to that. He's like, "Oh yeah, no, I don't like that." Shut up.
I don't know, man. Yeah. Hopefully he's not there for Bahrain. And if he is, then I could just imagine your face for practice 1. That.
Yeah, exactly.
That. I'd ask for a man of the match performance, but I don't think there is one.
I'll probably just give driver of the day to Kimi Antonelli.
I'd just probably give it to Verstappen because he won.
Because he got it in China for no reason, so I might give
it
this time.
Point.
Actually, saying that, Yuki actually got it too. I think he got driver of the day.
He made up the most points.
Race.
Yeah, but he made up the most spots.
He did the most overtake.
Where is the driver of the day? Don't they usually bring it up on the website? No, whatever.
But yeah, what a disappointing Japanese Grand Prix. Hopefully Bahrain this weekend is a bit more exciting, and we will talk about that hopefully this week. But I think we should wrap this up, and so you can get back to your sleep.
Just wait for the
Any
next
final
race
thoughts?
to start. No.
Shit.
No thoughts. No action. No thoughts. Nothing.
No thoughts. No emotion. I'm Oscar Piastri. No emotion.
That's the only time Oscar Piastri's no emotion is valid.
Yeah, that's true.
Dude, the race actually, I think, ruined his birthday, personally. He could have, spent the whole day at the beach, partied with his friends, family. No, instead he had to drive around for an hour and a half for no reason in a race car.
Road trip in Japan.
Yeah, in circles, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, but hey, I'll still, even if it's a boring day, I'll still race a Formula 1 car on my birthday. I won't say no to that.
The good news is we have the next 2 weekends in a row of action that will actually be
We've got Bahrain and Jeddah.
Yeah, Jeddah's a killer track.
2 night tracks, which is cool.
True. True.
Go.
Actually, Jeddah's another one that pisses me off, but we'll talk about that another day.
All right, we'll leave that there. But everyone, thanks everyone who has tuned in and listened, whether you're on YouTube or Spotify. Thanks everyone who subscribed to us. We've reached 1,000 subscribers. Amazing milestones, taking us
on YouTube
years to get there. On YouTube, yes. But it's amazing. So thank you everyone for your support. And if you haven't yet, and you did actually enjoy this, and you did stick around to the end, thank you. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe, and hit the ding dong notification bell. Spotify, feel free to hit the follow button as well to stay up to date with all our recent podcasts. And we'll see you next time. We've got our supercar preview coming tomorrow as well, so stay tuned for that. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye for now.